boasts the industry's first 10-year warranty on all parts and labor. Inverter units are also available. Don't hear it, just feel it. Mitsu Air Limited, 246 Eastern Main Road, Barataria. Give us a call at 674-4000 or 675-4000 or email us at mitsu.limited@gmail.com.
Chic Leisure Limited, making life easier. Our renowned great tasting vermicelli comes pre-cut in regular and parch, packaged to make preparation simple. Attention all doubles vendors and roti makers, try our high quality pre-sifted bromate free all-purpose and whole wheat flour, low price and conveniently packaged. For wholesale and retail prices, contact Chic Leisure Limited, Warrenville, Conopia. Chic Leisure Limited, quality you can trust.
Introducing the finest selection from premium deli and meats. Savor the bold flavors of beef salami, beef pepperoni and chicken ham. Indulge in our diced beef bacon and perfectly sliced beef bacon. Explore the rich taste of smoked beef and tender roast beef. Treat yourself to our juicy jumbo chicken hot dogs and beef hot dogs. Top it all off with the delicate flavors of smoked turkey breast and our premium whole turkey, all halal certified for your trust. Delivered to you by Chill Foods, Premium Deli and Meats, excellence in every bite.
The power. To shatter the strongest. Conquer the indestructible with Ronex's collection of angle grinders.
Hello, good night everyone. Welcome to another episode of Breaking Barriers live on IBN every Wednesday. I am Richard Jagasa and with me is Uncle Nazim. He misled me on the phone and told me he thought it was Tuesday night and he was home.
No, but you know how it is. Assalamu alaikum and good night everyone. Welcome to your favorite, should I say, host or hostess?
Talk show hostess.
Tonight we have a lot in store. We have a lot of vibes for you.
A lot of
foreign exchange vibes.
Correct.
So we will. I don't know what angle you want to start at.
Well, let me start with something. What do you think about how a man can roll up in a ministry building and collect a check?
Oh,
the
God,
PS can come and bring a check for him downstairs.
You know what? Let me tell you what went on,
Mm-hmm.
Remember in the last program, we wanted to know where was Mr. Hines?
He make himself known now.
So he was in, like nobody wasn't studying him, so he decided to come out with a bang.
Yeah.
He decided to go in the people, but based on, as he's no longer a minister, can he just waltz in into the parking lot and a permanent secretary bring something for him?
Well, the answer to that is obviously no. Your pass expired, your authority to be in the ministry building expired. You know, you can't move freely about the place. You don't know, we don't know what you're going to do and so on. And there's a discrepancy here because while former Minister Hines says he just went in the car park and collected a check, there's other public evidence in the public domain to suggest that he actually went in the building or attempted to go into the building at least. So there's conflicting, statements and conflicting evidence. And I think the minister said that he will look into it and deal with the matter accordingly. But let's take the evidence at the lowest. Let's say Hines is telling the absolute truth.
Right.
He went to the car park, which is, if you know the ministry building, that particular ministry building, it's basement car park, and the PS came down an elevator, delivered the check to him, and so on. First question is, that supposedly happened between 8 to 4, Monday to Friday. That PS is supposed to be doing the state's work.
Not messenger work.
Right? Not messenger work. Why was that check so important that it had to be hand-delivered by the permanent secretary of a ministry? All right? Secondly, in what capacity is that check being drawn from the public purse? What could possibly be, what happened to require a check being cut in favor? Now, I saw some comments on Facebook, well, it might be his salary. Well, obviously, your salary comes straight in your bank account, comes from Treasury.
Right.
So it's not that. Some contract talk was raised. Well, obviously, again, that can't be it. Your contract will come from wherever, and it can't be he had a contract from a ministry. So, from national security, I should say. So what really is it? I saw somebody say, well, it could be, he put money out of his pocket, for something. Hines.
And Hines gave the fella $20 to buy something when he was asking him.
Right. But even that, I want to debunk that rumor because that, of course, as you know, is illegal and unlawful. Yourself being in any public service, you can't take money out of your pocket and get reimbursed. There's public procurement regulations for that. So serious questions and possible impropriety taking place there.
But it have a simple solution to this situation. If the permanent sec body check for Hines, the permanent sec had to sign the book.
Right, yes.
There's a book where the check is lodged, so they have to sign off on it.
Right.
They sign in on behalf of Mr. Hines.
Right, without an authorization letter and so on.
All that, right.
Yeah.
So that is the first step. And then we could take it from there. So the first thing is to look to see if the permanent sec signed for the check.
Right.
And if the permanent sec didn't sign for the check and wrote something else, that is immediate dismissal.
Right. Disciplinary action. Right, yeah, I agree. That's an excellent point. So, and then on top of that now, we want to know, as the public, we want to know what the check was for, how much the check was drawn for, the date on the check, and the usual particulars. So those three main things: what the check was for, the amount, and when it was drawn.
All right. Well, we will see Hines for a little while again. He will probably go into hibernation.
Hines in.
And then when we ask him again, he will come out.
Right.
But beside Hines, I want to know people not getting $200 US when they're traveling to go away.
Correct.
They're banning you. They're actually banning you.
You got 150 this trip. You got 100 next trip.
And they're giving you the 200 and like they want to pull it back.
Yeah, and they give it in 10s and 20s and things.
Boy, so I want to know where these people get this amount of Forex for the show.
Right.
I mean, I shouldn't say for the show, because the show ain't come off. The show ain't come off yet.
Yeah.
And that is chaos again. So we need clarity on where the promoters got their Forex.
Right. Correct. 950,000 US dollars.
To Vybz Kartel.
And they're expected to pay 1.3 million total. Right. So where did they have that 1.3 in order to sign that agreement? In order to say, we're going to enter into this arrangement because we have the money, or at least we expected to get the money to pay out. So serious problems and serious questions. You're talking about foreign exchange. That's a serious issue, which the current government has said, listen, we're going to look into it. We're going to look at this foreign exchange cartel, and we're going to report on it. Again, Thursday is post-cabinet briefing, so I'm hoping to see something on that tomorrow. But in the meantime, I believe recently some of the business association and chambers.
I think it's the South Chamber. We have that, guys? Just a little clip up with the South Chamber, who talking about Forex now. Allocation. I don't want to. I want to get the headlines, so I don't want to misquote anything. I want to know where these people were in the past more than 9 years.
Yeah.
Look at here. Business leaders want Forex reform and port efficiency. The one with the glasses, I think he was it's Kiran Singh, I think. I think he was carded to go up for the PNM in South, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know.
If I'm not mistaken, that is I just asking if he was one of the person who was earmarked to go up for a seat in the PNM.
Right.
So these fellas didn't have no mouth.
So all of a sudden they have life.
Everybody start to get life now.
Where were they when the Supermarket Association cried out for foreign exchange last year? Where were they when the Used Car Dealers Association cried out for foreign exchange last year? Where were they when Ramstrand Dairy Products had cause to file a case and come under attack from the then Minister of Finance himself, Shortman Imbert, to I could call him that now. He's no longer a minister. He barely holding on to the party by a thread.
Of course.
Anyway, we'll deal with that in a minute. Where were they? Where were they? I'm glad it's coming to light now, because now it's becoming even more apparent that there's a foreign exchange bias and inequality of distribution. But I want to make it known that the men and women that called for equality in the distribution long ago were those men I mentioned before. Ramstrand Dairy Products took a case all the way to court. That's waiting on decision. Used Car Dealers Association and of course the Supermarket Association and so on. So and then Imbert had the gall to go on X, formerly Twitter, and lambast these people, lambasting I think even Express and Guardian at times. You know, we've commented on this at length. So while we're glad you all come on the train now, what will be revealed when the foreign exchange cartel is disclosed, I think is going to rock some heads, shake up some families.
Going to rock the boat.
Yeah, the way we have landlord gate, the way we have lease gate in Trinidad, we will have foreign exchange gate just now.
All right.
Right.
But you dealt with that extensively. I can remember maybe about before the election.
Yeah, because it was becoming. Firstly, overly apparent that there was a bias in the distribution. Overly obvious, right? It was being unreasonable and untenable to the regular man on the street. And it was affecting so many persons. It reached a point where people who would bring in just one box of clothes, white t-shirt, and sell in the market and on the side of the road, couldn't even get foreign exchange for that. It reached a point where there was even talk about, credit cards was being cut already, so that was affecting foreign exchange availability for simple things like Amazon and, online purchases, Shein and so on. And it was affecting everybody, down to their daily lives was being affected.
Yeah, but what about the part where they were saying if your cousin bring Forex into the country,
you couldn't sell it to
you couldn't buy it from them.
Yeah, that black market nonsense. So it's absolutely ridiculous, to say the least. It was absolutely ridiculous, to say the least. But in the meantime, I'm glad it's being looked at. $950 million to cartel or to anybody. That's a pretty dollar, boy. And let's talk about when. No, I didn't buy no cartel ticket. I didn't buy any ticket, right?
You're sure?
I'm sure.
You didn't get any sponsored?
And I didn't get any sponsored.
All right.
But you see this call that people have about the fee being too high and support local and all that? Let me tell you something, you ought not to ever dictate a man's price.
Correct.
His price is based on the need and the want for him.
Come like Marshall.
Marshall
big, so when Marshall say, I want 1 million.
Right.
Promoters,
if you want the man to perform.
If you want better sing at your event, you got to come up with it.
Yeah. So while I don't hold any brief for Cartel or any other artist, dancehall, soca or otherwise, I must say that in general, if that is a man's price, that is the man's price. If he can't afford it, go somewhere else.
But I saw a clip on Facebook where something like this You know, with AI now, you don't know what to believe or not, right? I saw a clip with Vybz Kartel where this almost a similar incident happened in Costa Rica, where he was supposed to perform and it pulled also. As I say, I know, you know, with Facebook and all that, you know what to believe.
Yeah, I'm not sure. You also anything like that? No. Yeah, I'll look into it. I'll look into it. But on the face of it, I know some people were saying, well, Kartel never planned on performing because of the restrictions imposed on him by the Ministry of National Security. It's quite the opposite if you listen to Kartel, you know.
Well, here what happened. It have 2 radio hosts. I ain't going to call nobody name. In the beginning, when the Honorable Minister made his pronouncement,
the
restriction and thing. But if you hear them lambasting the government.
Yeah. How they go stop a man from talking.
If you hear them and they say the government this, the government doing that, why the government doing this? And is the promoters who Kartel said responsible for the mayhem, you know?
And he thanked the government of Trinidad and Tobago. He thanked the government for allowing him to come in to perform. He said, all my contract says, I come in to perform, board a plane, I go spend a night, I go perform, and I gone.
Right.
All he business
he didn't know about no schools and no radio. They would putting out that maybe on their behalf, and he would have just probably followed suit.
Yeah.
But the minister took a stance. And I had no problem with that.
Yeah.
So, I tell you, I laughing at them going on. People might be saying I'm mad watching me my van laughing, and I alone in the van.
Yeah, the misinformation from the opposition and their supporters and so on is ridiculous, man. Look, I saw 2 MPs. I had to double check, you know, if they're MPs or they lost the deposit, you know, the cocktail they get last election. I saw they saying warning. Mass firings to come in CPEP and URP and WASA and so on. Yep. There is absolutely no evidence, no indication. It's quite the opposite if one were to listen to the ministers, read the newspapers, and be up to date on their social media, of course. It's quite the opposite. They're doing everything in their power to retain jobs and even open up jobs, like what they did with the fire service, for example. Right. And there's even talk about turning SRP officers into substantive officers. So the truth is apparent, it's obvious, and I think if anybody just read the papers and look at these ministers, especially Thursday post-cabinet briefing, it will clear the air. It is fair tactics that the opposition is imposing. It is scare tactics, fair tactics. It is unreasonable, ridiculous, and meant to cause mischief. That's all it is. That's the first point. The second point is, instead of allegedly predicting mass firings and who is being let go in the public service, I find the PNM should be concerned with mass firings in their own camp.
No, exactly. Right now, there's infighting.
Correct.
Stewart didn't go up.
What was it called? Before we get to Stewart, what was it called? PNM have some groups, some split groups.
But they say cabal.
Right. I'll remember the name in a minute. So, right, and Stewart didn't go up. They call it a brilliant political move, but it's a cop-out.
Let me ask you this question, Richard. If you in an organization, highly qualified, you're looking to reach at the top.
Correct.
Why is Sir Chung staying in that party and he know he can't reach it up? He know he can't reach it.
If he wasn't an MP, he would have bowed out politics entirely.
Long time. He know he there, but he cannot be the leader of the PNM.
Correct.
He cannot. So, that making any sense?
Correct.
And then Miss Deposit and all, I think she ain't congratulate Penny.
Yeah.
But I had some confidence in Penny. But you see, since that straw poll and when they appointed Stuart and she keeps him out quiet and she stay quiet, I lose the little hope I had of her.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I don't hold a PNM party card. So I wouldn't venture into expressing my opinion in who's a better leader and who's a...
And you are a PNM sticker in your RAF?
No.
You sure?
Sure.
You did somebody and stick it in your...
That was a KFC sticker probably.
All right.
Right. So I wouldn't impose my opinion, right? That's not my place. What I will comment on is whether or not the process is democratic, fair, free, and so on. And it's honestly, I'm starting to wonder, you know.
There's no fairness, no democracy in that.
I'm starting to wonder. And I mean, they have this pull and tug thing on social media. It is obvious. I'm sorry for PNM supporters, because it's obvious the party is crumbling. It's absolutely crumbling. I'm not sure why Faris Al-Rawi and Foster Cummings are in the Senate. I'm not sure what they have to offer, the country having rejected them.
Nobody has to understand too. I understand where you're coming from. Mm-hmm. But if you go up for a seat, and let me say you win the first time, right? Mm-hmm. You ain't serving government.
Right. So you have nothing to judge you on.
Right.
Right.
They served over 9 years in government.
Correct.
What Faris do? He was the worst Attorney General, the worst Minister of Local
and Rural Development.
Cummings, he has charges pending.
Yeah. And I heard he talk on social media about some mattress, some bed in the office.
Red?
I don't know if the bed was red or I don't know, but it was a serious thing. When the media asked him about it, he said he's not answering that. He too big to answer that.
Probably the man is a bit tired. He needs a little rest and thing.
Yeah, I find he should at the very least comment on it, answer it. You know, those are serious issues to address. But back to the point. All right, so we have an uncontested political leader post. Right? All the time they want to comment on the UNC's political leader.
They hitting them left, right, and center.
But you have whatever kind of election that is, and now every other post, well, is fight and bacchanal and who you know, and on social media. Let me see if I pull up the groups on social media. It's absolute warfare, you know. It's warfare. It's warfare on those groups, and. My comment is simply this. At the end of the day, the PNM supporter, the average PNM supporter, needs to vote for an executive that they think they could elevate the party.
Right.
In my opinion, having looked at the government and who was in the last government, I can't see how it makes sense.
Definitely. I looking at them and I say, Lord have mercy. Is the worst and the lowest I've seen PNM.
Yeah.
The lowest, it's going to continue having infighting. It's going to.
Yeah. And sorry for them, boy. Sorry for them.
So.
And they control such small areas on the map, eh?
Yeah.
And that's another point we want to get at eventually. Well, if you look at the voting base of the PNM, it's only one tiny little area, you know, one small little area. So they don't really have much. I mean, the minute they lost Point Fortin, the minute they lost,
and Labrador extent.
Yeah. The minute they lost Point Fortin and San Fernando West, eh? Right. Oh God! I hear men went to man cry, you know.
Cry the ball. So what you think about, Richard? This, how much? 23 million for 67 new police vehicles. Mm-hmm. And here the vehicle they buy, RAV4.
How that vehicle does drive? A good vehicle.
No, that is a luxury vehicle, you know. Mm-hmm. RAV4 is a luxury vehicle, very expensive vehicle, you know.
Right.
And when one of these vehicles get hit, you cannot get parts for them, you know.
Right. Okay, is it sturdy on the road? Can it chase a criminal?
Not with aluminum rims.
All right. Next question.
Because you know more potholes we have.
Right. If a bandit is seeking to escape the police and the police in due process in the heat of a chase, and bullets are exchanged, can the vehicle survive?
No, that vehicle, once if a offender get hit with a good, powerful gun, that could go straight and mash up your block and thing.
And how much money we spend on these vehicles?
$23 million.
Oh, God.
And besides that, they got 3 Fortuners, I think. Mm-hmm. And I think it's 7 Prados. 7 Prados.
Mm-hmm. And this, of course, is inherited from the last administration.
Yes, they are. All Toyota, eh? Everything Toyota.
Oh, we bought it from Toyota?
Yeah, all Toyota. Mm-hmm. So Toyota smiling all the way to the bank.
And how we paying? TT or foreign exchange?
They have to get that in USD. Then taking no yen. So, and these vehicles are nice vehicles, but I do think it's nice vehicles for police work.
Yeah. Have you ever seen a chase, a vehicle chase in the US? It is
Yeah, they are rugged vehicle, you know.
right.
And
Yeah,
if
they
you
use
check,
Challenger and
if
Dodge.
you check, they do have aluminum rims and they have steel rims.
Right. And I think the purpose for that is because if you're in a chase, you want to ride the vehicle,
All the
push it
curb
off the
and thing,
road.
and all the curb you could ride curb easy, and they do have low profile and thing. Next thing you know, they're asking for drop low and thing in this, you know. Because they say the reason they buy these vehicles is because these are the preference of the officers, you know.
So the officers ask for that.
But it look like the officer, and they get them it.
Well, crime fighting in this country really needs to take. We have to look at it, you know, objectively. We have to get the crime rate down. So
And
it's
as
not
a
an easy
matter of
thing
fact,
to do.
I think the last count, I think they said the amount of vehicles we have, police vehicles, that is over 2,000, right? And over 1,000 is functioning. What happened to the rest?
That is when you're passing on the highway, the seat backing
Yes,
up.
in San Fernando, they say too. So you telling me so much vehicles pack up,
Serious
and they're
issues.
buying all these vehicles again. They can auction the vehicle, get some money, you know,
They
before
could.
it just rot.
Well, when it comes to crime fighting, there's a topic I want to discuss at great length.
Fix up early.
But I don't know if you want to take the break and then when we come back, deal with it.
All right, well, use the boss, you know, I just
All right, guys, let's go to the first break. And when we come back, I'll spend some time on what I believe should be considered in drafting of the Stand Your Ground legislation.
Introducing the finest selection from premium deli and meats. Savor the bold flavors of beef salami, beef pepperoni, and chicken ham. Indulge in our diced beef bacon and perfectly sliced beef bacon. Explore the rich taste of smoked beef and tender roast beef. Treat yourself to our juicy jumbo chicken hot dogs and beef hot dogs. Top it all off with the delicate flavors of smoked turkey breast and our premium whole turkey, all halal certified for your trust. Delivered to you by Chill Foods, Premium Deli and Meats, excellence in every bite.
The power. To shatter the strongest. Conquer the indestructible with Ronex's collection of angle grinders.
Chic Leisure Limited, making life easier. Our renowned great tasting vermicelli comes pre-cut in regular and parched, packaged to make preparation simple. Attention all doubles vendors and roti makers, try our high quality pre-sifted bromate free all-purpose and whole wheat flour, low price and conveniently packaged. For wholesale and retail prices, contact Chic Leisure Limited, Warrenville, Conopia. Chic Leisure Limited, quality you can trust.
Ronex's premium quality.
Mitsu Air Limited, authorized Mitsubishi air conditioning dealer. No need to replace your air conditioning units ever so often. Split units, cassette, ductable, CTVIF systems, and much more. Mitsubishi Electric has long been powering industries and providing solutions for healthy living. Mitsu Air Limited boasts the industry's first 10-year warranty on all parts and labor. Inverter units are also available. Don't hear it, just feel it. Mitsu Air Limited, 246 Eastern Main Road, Barataria. Give us a call at 674-4000 or 675-4000 or email us at mitsu.limited@gmail.com.
A bunch of balloons to class.
Hello, good night. Welcome back to Breaking Barriers. I'm one of your hosts, Richard Jagasa. With me is Uncle Nazim. I want to get straight into a topic that is a serious point to deal with when it comes to legislative reform in our country. Now, I want to be very quick with it, and I know Uncle Nazim will have some questions as we go along. I feel like you got a mic for Moody, you know. Here you go, start up.
To start him.
So, before we begin, I want to clarify certain parameters. One is the UNC campaigned heavily on stand your ground legislation. That has morphed in the public domain, the discussion to be in firearms for all those who apply. In other words, law-abiding citizens to get firearms. First point of clarity is the ability for a law-abiding citizen to get a firearm is the current law in Trinidad and Tobago. All right, the Firearm Users License Act, Section 16 to 21 outlines how one can apply. Guys, let's get the how to apply for license picture up. Right, this is on the TTPS's website. Step 1, obtain a provisional. Step 2, obtain a substantial, and so on. Just quickly down. There we go. So come back to me. So, and it's the ttps.gov.tt's website. So it is currently the law. Look, we just showed it. It's currently the law for anybody to apply for a firearm. Law-abiding citizens are entitled and really ought to receive firearm licenses. Now, our process in Trinidad, according to section 16, let's go to provisional firearm license form, please. This is just a photo of a form, all right? I think it's 2 pages, if not 3. Yeah. So this is one of the forms you have to fill out. This is for the provisional. If it is granted, you then do a training course, and then you get your you apply for your substantial, and you get your substantial, all right? Let's go to, I'm moving as quickly as I can. Let's go to 3, Firearm Users Booklet. There we go. We're still using booklet. Imagine that. This is your license. People ask, well, where's your FUL? This is your license, a booklet. You're supposed to keep your booklet, all of your bullets, and your weapon on you at all times. Come back to me. I think that should, of course, be considered to change in this rounds, and we could have it more like the US and, of course, England, where it looks like a card, the ID card. All right? Okay, good. And, of course, you could even put it on your identification card that you are a holder. All right? Fine. Those are simple reform points. I think what I call low-hanging fruits. All right. Just flash the firearm users laws 1 and 2 so they can understand where I'm coming from where it comes to the legislation. There we go. Section 16, these are the provisional. Those are the requirements. And the other one very quickly, please. There we go. And that's 17. That's the substantial. That's the general provisions for firearm. And, of course, there are safeguards hidden within that. So let's come back to me. There are safeguards hidden within that legislation already embedded, such as the Commissioner of Police can seize your firearm for any reason, could take away your permit and so on. So there are safeguards in place. And, of course, the discretion to give a law-abiding citizen a firearm solely rests with the Commissioner of Police. So the first point is it is already the law. The new administration is not going to take a firearm and put it in your hands.
You have to qualify.
You have to qualify. Good. That's the first point. I heard the former Minister of National Security say, well, he wants to know what is the mischief this new law seeks to address. Now, for those of you who do not know, simply put, the mischief rule is a legislative drafting doctrine which simply says laws must be drafted to fix a mischief in society, something wrong in society. Well, senior, the mischief is the 600 plus murders last year. The mischief is the fact that this year we have already had 100 plus, 125 plus murders this year. And those are only the ones that are accounted for. There are those that are unaccounted for. That is the mischief. The mischief is the regular citizen in this country does not feel safe. The mischief is there are serious issues of kidnapping, housebreaking and entering, and rape that go unchallenged And that's the mischief that needs resolving. So I answered you. That's the mischief. Now, the law also specifies, or rather, the law also includes and permits pepper spray. Of course, we deal with that at another time, the efficiency of the law. And I think we should also consider what I consider another low-hanging fruit, tasers, all right, which is prominent in European countries. And of course, we have tasers. We have pepper spray as well with one-time use or two-time use. The cartridge, you charge the cartridge in the taser for one-time use. You fire it, it shocks once, and it's done. You can't use it again, all right? So that's a less lethal form of self-defense. So let's get into it now. So what is stand your ground legislation? Well, stand your ground legislation simply refers to a number of different amendments that ought to take place in a number of different laws, for one being the FUL Act, a number of different amendments which will allow citizens to, as we say, protect your castle. Now, the Prime Minister said last week, Thursday, that she's looking at the Florida model. So I've looked at the Florida model and I'll make reference to what that means. Before I get into that, I want to set out, or rather dispel another rumor. It is firstly, currently the law to permit anybody to apply to hold a FUL, and it is currently the law that a law-abiding citizen, somebody who meets all of the requirements, the criteria that I flashed across the screen. The requirements and criteria are quite extensive. You have to have permission from your spouse. You have to show that you are psychologically stable.
Psychometric testing.
You have to get eye testing and so on. It is extensive. And if your application exceeds more than 6 months to make a decision, you generally have to redo all of those tests, all right? Now, the law is that every year per annum, you have to keep updating your file with those things, because somebody might be saying in 2023 when they apply and get FUL, but by 2025 with foreign exchange shortage and all kind of
everything that taking place, they get a
you might go mad. So those are the safeguards I referred to earlier. Having said that, I also want to confirm that it is currently the law. It is currently what we call common law, so not statute, not legislation. It is currently the common law that you may use reasonable force to protect yourself. It is currently the law. We have a case that we use from Privy Council called Palmer and R, and another case Beckford and R. So I'll read the statements in Beckford first. It simply says, a person who harbors a genuine belief that he may be under attack is entitled to use such reasonable force as is necessary to repel such an attack. It goes on to say that it is not limited. It is not limited to attacks in home. It could be outside of home as well. All right? In the other case I mentioned, Palmer and R, it sets out the 7 principles very clearly for self-defense. So the common law is we have to ask ourselves whether or not a person who is pleading self-defense at trial, whether that person meets these requirements. First requirement, a person who is attacked has every right to defend himself. Force can be met with force. 2, in defending himself, he may do only what is reasonably necessary. 3, what is reasonably necessary is dependent on the context of the attack. 4, the retaliation must not be disproportionate to the attack. In other words, you cannot use a hammer to kill a fly. 5, if the perceived threat is imminent and grave, then it would be necessary to use such force as is reasonable. 6, a person defending himself is expected to weigh to a necessity of the exact, is not expected, to weigh to a necessity of the exact amount of force which is necessary to repel the attack. And 5, in a moment of unexpected anguish, the response must be judged by what the person thought was sufficient and necessary. So what stand your ground legislation seeks to do is simply codify what the common law already says. So what I think it will do is structure in our legislative form. It will structure, there we go, thank you. It will structure, you can leave it on the screen for a bit. It will structure the test the police have to undergo in determining whether or not somebody used reasonable force in the context and in the circumstances. It will structure the questions the court has to ask itself in determining whether or not the person used reasonable force. Look here, boy, stand your ground law. All right, this is in 2023. It will structure what is appropriate in considering whether or not to lay a charge and whether or not the charge will be successful. All right? So whereas now, somebody might, and I think I have it here. Do I have it? FUL holder kills bandit. Let's show them that one. Whereas now in Trinidad and Tobago, if you are a lawful holder of an FUL and somebody does enter your house and you, as we colloquially say, light them up and you floor them, you could be charged for murder or manslaughter, which is what happened here. Recently, another instance happened, I think 2 weeks ago. It was in the papers as well. So there we go. So there's another instance. Yeah. And what happens now, hold on, just zoom back into that paragraph. I want to go all the way down. When I come to the analysis, I'll make reference to it. But it says the deceased, police said, is in his early 20s. So this was, the long and short of it is that this was the bandit, this was the robber, this was the person who committed the crime and was shot, the deceased, he died. Police said he's in his early 20s, African descent, with a cornrow hairstyle, was wearing a blue and white jersey, green sweater, three-quarter pants, and a Nike slippers. Come back to me. Nike slippers, three-quarter pants. He brave to break into another person's house, eh?
Right.
Right, good. But I'll draw a reference to that in a minute. What I was talking about was simply this. The law now treats the lawful citizen who is exercising his right, his common law right of self-defense to protect his castle, protect his family. When that law-abiding citizen seeks to stand his ground, he is arrested and charged.
He looked like he's a criminal.
Correct. And up until just recently, there was no bail for murder. So he was inside with the real hardened criminals. So we were punishing law-abiding citizens. So that's a serious problem. All right? So what stand your ground legislation really does is it seeks to codify and exemplify what the law should be on whether or not to lay the charge in the first place. Right. So let's get into the floor. Any questions so far? We moving good?
Yeah, you're moving good.
All right.
Questions will come after.
How are we going so far? Good. Right. Good. So let's look at the Florida model. So, of course, all of this is subject to change, and we'll have another discussion when the legislation is proposed in Parliament. We look at the sections of the bill and so on. So right now we're looking at it simply based on what the Prime Minister said in her last press conference. So she's made reference to the Florida model. And I've done some research on it. It builds on the Protect Your Castle doctrine. All right? It removes the duty to retreat, which is stand your ground in a nutshell. Right? So you no longer have to avoid at all costs, which is the duty to retreat. You can stand your ground. Florida state statute, they have a very long code, 776.0123, says a person is justified in using or threatening to use, that's important, Uncle Moody raised that issue, or threatening to use deadly force if he reasonably believes that such force is necessary to prevent imminent death or great bodily harm to himself or another. So this one is a little broader, it's a little all-encompassing, because this one speaks to not only if I am the holder of a firearm and you're approaching me, I can shoot, but if you're approaching my wife or my daughter in my property, in my castle, I can shoot. It also speaks to if me and my wife and my daughter are out at the movies and somebody hold them by their throat with a knife as we walk to the car, I can also point and shoot. So this one deals with all of those circumstances which Uncle Moody mentioned. So not only in your house, even outside. But look at the wording. The wording is very close to the Privy Council PAMA in our case. It says use or threatening to use deadly force if he reasonably believes. Remember, we just read that in PAMA. The duty to execute stand your ground, the duty is proportional, must be proportional. I cannot because I'm playing football and I'm sweating with the boys and a man rush me, I can pull out my firearm and light him up?
No.
That's unreasonable use of, just because a man tackle me.
Hit him my elbow.
Right, that's a red card or a yellow?
Nah, sometimes you get little elbow and the referee don't see.
Right? So, but that's different than if I'm driving and a man has a gun, signaling me to pull over, pointing it, I could respond in real time. So understand what the Florida model is, and understand that this is where the mind of the legislative branch is, where the mind of central government is, and that's the kind of protection they're talking about. So they're talking about you're walking from the movies, from your car to the movies, you're walking from the cinema to your car. Somebody go to raffia, somebody go to interfere with you, you can light them up. Now, of course, another point of expansion in the Florida model is, if you notice, you can threaten to use deadly force, which means I can pull my firearm and even my taser gun, for example. I just want to show how broadly it can be used. I can pull my taser, point, if you don't step back from my wife, I will open fire.
Right. Warning, you give them a warning.
Correct. So that's the benefit of this particular model, the Florida model. Now, there are others and there are others that deal with other issues and based on other frameworks, but that's not what we were told to look at. So we told to look at this one. So that's one of the benefits. Now, the framework is simply sanctity of human life and protection of personal property. And I want to mention personal property there for a second, because I mentioned wife, I mentioned child, I mentioned if a knife is held at throat and so on. But what if you come out of the cinema and somebody trying to jerry-rig your car? You know, that's protection of property.
Right.
Same thing. Now, the response must be reasonable. So that person is attempting to steal your car, let's assume, the person is attempting, and you catch the person in the act. All right? And somewhere you went and when you come back, the tires was missing from the car. Right. So let me say you come back and he will catch the person. All right. Now, your life is not under threat. And you are not, listen to the language, you are not under threat. You are not under threat of imminent death or great bodily harm. But your property is at threat. So what do? You have to use a less lethal response, because your life is not under threat. And there is no serious threat to great bodily harm to you or another person. So you have to use a less lethal response in the example of theft of property. All right?
Let's say in this instance, as you use your car, right?
Right.
You catch the person, you draw your firearm.
Right.
And you tell them to step back or move away from your vehicle.
Yeah.
And the person decide now they not moving.
Right.
And you want to get to your car.
Right.
What is your redress there?
Well, remember, it's not a one-size-shoe-fits-all situation. You have to really assess, because you might be focused on this gentleman in front of you, but what if you come with a partner?
Right.
What if while you're doing that, a car starts to make movements out the corner of your eye? You have to respond in real time, you know? And especially, I mean, we know it's likely to either be one of those vehicles we see commonly used by criminals, a Tida or what's the other one, a wagon? You know, if that happens, right, then you could respond accordingly, as opposed to if you're telling the gentleman back off and he says, okay, sorry, drops his items.
No problem, he go away.
You go away, you know, then of course you call the police, say, listen, this is what just happened, I'm going to start my car and move, you know, so on. You know, the situation, the context has a lot to do with your reaction and your response. Now, this is another item that I think has to be incorporated, at least in the regulation, not necessarily in the statute, but systematic and periodic training. Because in the US, if you go to Florida, especially, as we're using the Florida model, and you pull a corner in a city, you're going to see at least two. You're going to see two fire training range, you know. You go in, you pay $100 US, $120 US, you could get up to 40 minutes of self-defense training, you know. So I think that has to happen, and I think there are qualified persons. I know Nahus, the gentleman we spoke about earlier. I know he has been advertising on social media, so that has popped up. So you have to do a lot of self-defense. You have to a lot of awareness training. You know, be alive to your surroundings. Understand what is the definition. What is an example of an imminent threat as opposed to just an innocent bystander?
No, I heard someone on a radio station this evening.
Right.
Hear how he bring it across with the same stand your ground.
Mm-hmm.
Someone break into your house.
Right.
They tie you up.
Mm-hmm.
They take your wife in your room.
Mm-hmm.
They raping your wife. You manage to get loose.
Mm-hmm.
You grab your poya and you come. What you going to do?
You have to empty the clip.
Boy, no, you have a gun, you have a poya.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Don't tell me you don't know what's a
I
poya.
didn't know what that was.
Nah,
How you gonna do that on live
man.
TV? How you gonna do that? You're supposed to.
Poya.
Yeah.
No, I know. I ain't using the blunt side.
Right.
He getting cut to pieces.
And that's what stand your ground is, you know. And that's it. You just have to defend your castle, defend your personal property and family members and your life. That's all it is. And that's why I mentioned earlier, tasers and pepper spray. It's not restrictive to FULs. It's not restrictive to firearms. And another distinguishing point. So the answer to your question is fine. Your duty in the moment is to protect your wife. So whatever reasonable force you think is appropriate to protect your wife is fine.
And as a lawyer, was that too excessive, or if you cut him up?
If our next man ever interfere with my wife, boy, he would be lucky if all that happened to him is a cut up.
Right.
He's lucky.
Well, all that.
Moody for him.
No, exactly. There are circumstances like that where the person is not going to have mercy because of the gravity of the situation.
Yeah. So one of the distinguishing points, before I forget, is unlike in the US, where they have different laws in different states, but the common one is show and carry, I think it's called, or carry and show, where you can show your firearm, you know, and they have other types of guns, you know, they have rifles, shotguns, and so on. There are different types. In Trinidad and Tobago, our current legislation is only for handheld pistols. Only. So this talk about, we're going to turn into the Wild Wild West, that's a fabrication affair, tactic by the PNM and the criminal element. This talk about, we're going to put guns in the hands of children, again, that's a fair tactic. You have to be 25 and older to apply. I showed that just now. And you have to meet all of the requirements. Just because you're 25 and older don't mean you could get. This talk that, you know, we're going to have school shootings and so on, again, that is a fair tactic because those school shootings often happen with, it's semi-automatic? Yeah. Right, semi-automatic. We don't have legislation for that here, and that is not being proposed right now. It's not in the Florida model. Automatic and semi-automatic, yeah. So we don't have those things, all right? You know who have those things? You know who have high-powered rifles? The criminal. The criminal. So if we as a country decide enough is enough, and we as a country decide we're going to empower the law-abiding citizens to meet, again, it's not even on equal footing with the criminal because the criminal have more manpower and more higher valued weapons than the regular man on the street. So we're going to give the underdog, the citizen, a fighting chance by giving him a licensed firearm. Well, then so be it. You cannot blame a man for wanting to protect. For wanting to protect his family.
His life and his family.
Correct. So the law here does not consider or talk about high-powered rifles and semi-automatics and automatics. So that's nonsense talk. All right. What we do have is handheld, and we don't have show and carry. We have hidden. So you must keep it hidden at all times. And it's not a show-off situation. Again, I make reference to the safeguards. The Commissioner of Police can take back your license at any given time. I have one other point to make, and then we could go to break if you want to. You could interrupt me. And I think, guys, I sent you. Where is it? Is it Reform Firearm Licensing? I wrote this article earlier this year. Reform in firearm licensing process. Guys, if we could just show it very quickly. And simply put, what I was suggesting, and what I continue to suggest, is the firearm application process consider urgent applications. Someone who is in dire need of an FUL should be given consideration ahead of the line and ahead of the queue, as the case may be, and given preferential treatment. Now, I suggest that, guys, it's reform firearm licensing. It's here on the list, so it should be there. Reform firearm licensing. It's an article. There we go. There we go. And what I am suggesting here, you can scroll all the way. I think the middle to it is where I make the suggestions. What I suggest is that you give serious consideration to granting firearms to persons in need of it now. And of course, you balance it. You come back to me, it may be on the other page. You balance it with giving it a time frame to return these FULs. 6 months, 3 months, 9 months, and so on. So, for example, what I suggest is, if someone is being extorted, if someone has gone to the police, and if someone has gone to the police and said, listen, look, this is the evidence of extortion. We have a whole extortion unit, right? And the extortion unit investigates and find value. I remember there was a voice note circulating with a lawyer, a female lawyer received. So something like that. And she applies for an FUL. I think she should get it for 3 months, for example. And at the end of the 3 months, her license expires automatically. So she has to hand in her gun and so on.
Or ask for an extension.
Or ask for an extension if she can prove to the police that, listen. Now, this is in addition, my suggestion is, in addition to meeting all of the other requirements, you also show the police, you also show the firearm unit application process, I need it urgently because, look, I have these threats. Look, my house was robbed Saturday, and when the bandits beat me with gun butt in my head and so on, they say, I'm coming back.
Right. They
say, I know you have more money in the safe, I'm coming back next week. If I could show them that. So in that case, I mightn't have proof of extortion, but I now get robbed.
A genuine threat.
A genuine threat, all right? So those are situations, and of course, it's not an exclusive list. Once you can satisfy the police that, listen, I need to jump the queue because it's an urgent situation. My life is at threat because I reach by you, not because I want a toy on my belt, you know. I reach by you because this is a serious issue, and they either coming for me, my children, my wife, my mother, my father, or they come in any property, or they come in any business. If I can show those things, I think, and nothing is wrong with our short-term license, nothing is wrong with our 3 months, or 6 months, or 5 months license, you know?
But the next thing, Richard, is your property properly fenced, right? Let's say that.
Right.
They scale your wall.
Right.
You see about 3, you know, they're moving in groups. About 3 or 5 of them coming in your property.
Right, masked.
You're masked.
Right. I have no doubt in my mind these are criminals.
Right, they are criminals.
Right.
And you watch, you observe, you see something that looking like a gun. Right? And they come in towards your door.
Right.
Your wife, your children, you have young children, your wife. What action should you take at that time? Because you know they're coming to either break down your door.
Right.
Fire warning shot outside?
No, empty the clip.
You see, well, that is why they say reasonable force now.
No, but you've laid out the scenario in a particular way. You've told me that they're in my property, they've already scaled the fence, 3 of them, so I'm outnumbered, and I've at least suspected one of them have a firearm.
Right.
So I have to put down that one person with the firearm in the ground now. And the others either have a choice.
Run.
To join the man and now put in the ground, or go right back where you come. That is the warning they get. But the one who I suspect has the firearm, I have to put him down first.
Boy, well, how I see it, I know I ain't getting no firearm, right? But once you're in my property, brother man, uninvited, you're supposed to get it.
Yeah.
You're uninvited. I didn't invite you. What you're doing here? You have ulterior motives.
Yeah. Now, there's another point, There was another point, which is, well, those are intruders. But what about your husband beating you? What about some serious deadly force being used in the heat of your husband get drunk?
Right.
Right. Okay. So what does Tanja Grong say on that? Now, again, we're speculating because we
Right.
haven't seen it, right? But the answer to the question is written in the Florida model. Any action that is reasonable to prevent imminent death or to prevent great bodily harm to himself or herself or others. So if I am watching somebody beat on a 9-year-old child and he's drunk, I have to take reasonable force to prevent the grievous bodily harm being imposed on that person.
Right.
Now, remember, we could use threats. We could use, we have other non-lethal forces. We could use tasers, pepper spray, and so on. It doesn't always have to go straight to the firearm. So I wanted to draw reference to that because it's not only a bandit, a criminal.
Right.
You know, it's so long as we are within the confines of death and some action to prevent death. Good. So, questions? You're comfortable? You're good?
Yeah, I good with that because you did well. So, it was clear. I don't think anybody wanted any clearer than that. Reasonable force as is necessary.
Mm-hmm. And remember, the burden is then on you to show it was necessary.
Right.
Yeah? So you can't go in the market and say, well, because that auntie grabbed the last
Banana fig.
body,
Yeah.
you light them up. No, man. No, that is fair tactics and nonsense pain and propaganda, So it has to be, and the burden is on you then to go before a judge and tell the judge, these are the factors why I believe there was serious harm. Right? Serious harm. And I mean, when you're looking at 600 plus, and then plus more unaccounted for murders in this country, and how much housebreaking and entering, and how much kidnapping, all of those things. All we're looking to do, all this central government has said, is that they're going to attempt to level the playing field. All right? So.
No, but before you go, Richard, I still find it have too much killings. I know the election was on the 28th, which is not, 2 months even passed yet, right?
Right.
But you don't see the necessary police presence still.
Yeah.
You ain't seen that. So if the bandits not seeing any police, and now is the time to bring the army out too. Especially in hotspot areas that you know. You know that hotspot. Regular search, random search. The people who live in an area will be discomforted, but that is how it have to be.
Yeah.
You look for the hotspot areas and you lock them down, keep them blocked up inside.
Yeah. You're talking about like police patrols and
you put up posts like exit.
Yeah.
If you have one exit or say 3 exits coming out from an area, you earmark those areas. You just put some police there a morning or a night. You just randomly come and park up and search.
Yeah.
Because they going people from one area leaving and going in the next area and rob it here.
Yeah.
And you see the highway, especially like this morning. Man, I just drive. I don't pass 100, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I driving about 90, I see people passing me like if I going about 20. I say, and not a police, not a police on the highway.
Yeah.
I tell you, I looking like I doing 20 or 30 kilometers per hour because they actually flying and going. Those are the people you see this, the merit points. Those are the people you have to target. You see speed limit on highways and things.
Mm-hmm.
If you're
tickets,
over,
not demerit points. Tickets.
they're getting demerit point for that too. Because speeding is what causes accident and loss of life. So that one in particular, if the speed limit is 100 and the police with the radar catch you going 150, check that is 50 kilometers than the 100. That should be serious enough for you to get to the demerit points and let you know, hey, I ain't supposed to be doing that. And there are other where we could remove from the demerit points, like broken taillights, blown bulb.
But And all the demerit, the entire legislation around the demerit points is going to be expunged?
Yes.
Right.
Well, they will delete and add and move and shift around and all them things.
Yeah.
But we need to get, they had to have stiff penalties for people breaking the door with reckless driving, dangerous driving, so much above the speed limit.
I think the
these
fines,
things.
I definitely think the fines should be increased, especially if you're a repeat offender for speeding, dangerous driving.
People have, high-end vehicle. They get a ticket and they could pay $5,000, they do so, like nothing. A poor man driving a little smarty, or a little Ford like Moody one, you know what I mean? They're going a little 80 juk papa down the road, you know what I mean? Nobody ain't gonna get them no thing.
Yeah.
Right? So I know we're gonna take our next break and then come back.
Up to you.
And we have to get the callers early tonight because these guys is at a lock off.
All right.
When we come back, we have some things to do with the expo and all that before.
Right, and then update the country on the status of the hospital.
Right.
Right, and then we could open the lines.
Right.
Yeah, so let's do that. Let's go to the second break, guys.
Introducing the finest selection from premium deli and meats. Savor the bold flavors of beef salami, beef pepperoni, and chicken ham. Indulge in our diced beef bacon and perfectly sliced beef bacon. Explore the rich taste of smoked beef and tender roast beef. Treat yourself to our juicy jumbo chicken hot dogs and beef hot dogs. Top it all off with the delicate flavors of smoked turkey breast and our premium whole turkey, all halal certified for your trust. Delivered to you by Chill Foods, Premium Deli and Meats, excellence in every bite.
The power. To shatter the strongest. Conquer the indestructible with Ronex's collection of angle grinders.
Chic Leisure Limited, making life easier. Our renowned great tasting vermicelli comes pre-cut in regular and parch, packaged to make preparation simple. Attention all doubles vendors and roti makers, try our high quality pre-sifted bromate free all-purpose and whole wheat flour, low price and conveniently packaged. For wholesale and retail prices, contact Chic Leisure Limited, Warrenville, Conopia. Chic Leisure Limited, quality you can trust.
Ronex's premium quality.
Mitsu Air Limited, authorized Mitsubishi air conditioning dealer. No need to replace your air conditioning units ever so often. Split units, cassette, ductable, CTVIF systems, and much more. Mitsubishi Electric has long been powering industries and providing solutions for healthy living. Mitsu Air Limited boasts the industry's first 10-year warranty on all parts and labor. Inverter units are also available. Don't hear it, just feel it. Mitsu Air Limited, 246 Eastern Main Road, Barataria. Give us a call at 674-4000 or 675-4000 or email us at mitsu.limited@gmail.com.
For the everyday lowest prices on all grocery items, trust Low Cost Supermarket for the widest variety of quality products at low prices. Freshly picked fruits and vegetables, healthy products for your well-being, high quality meat cuts, and a warm and friendly service. Low cost supermarket, Sun and Main Road, Cunupia.
Introducing the finest selection from premium deli and meats. Savor the bold flavors of beef salami, beef pepperoni, and chicken ham. Indulge in our diced beef bacon and perfectly sliced beef bacon. Explore the rich taste of smoked beef and tender roast beef. Treat yourself to our juicy jumbo chicken hot dogs and beef hot dogs. Top it all off with the delicate flavors of smoked turkey breast and our premium whole turkey, all halal certified for your trust. Delivered to you by Chill Foods, Premium Deli and Meats, excellence in every bite.
The power. To shatter the strongest. Conquer the indestructible with Ronex's collection of angle grinders.
Yeah, welcome back, folks. First, let me remind you about our Eidul Adha that will be taking place on Saturday, 7:30, promptly 7:30, because you know people will have to go and see about animals and all that. But you could still stick around. We have eats, we have drinks, all the necessary stuff we have when we have our Eid functions. So 7:30. The Khatib will be Mr. Amir. Yeah. I think Mr. Amir. So who knows, Mr. Amir will definitely make an effort to be there. Whether permitting or not, we have in our Eidgah. And next on the agenda is our expo from the 17th to the 21st of July. Keep that date in mind. Come in a safe, very safe environment. Parking. We have parking to facilitate at least 300 to 400 cars, so you have no problems with parking. We have full security, so you can come and do your shopping safe without anybody interfering with you. Anything you want to say, Richard? You will be there in the expo?
Of course.
What about the Eidgah?
Of course.
All right, that is good.
Right.
7:30, eh? Right.
What do you say, we live in?
So guys, we'll open the phone lines to give our callers a chance to ask any questions that they want to on the issue of the stand your ground legislation or anything that they need clarification on. So whether it be PNM fighting or
People
whether
who-
it be
people who
the
supposed to-
government working too fast.
Or people who are supposed to resign and they resign
Hey,
yet.
that is something I wanted to ask you. Right? Is it mandatory for state board appointees from one government to resign automatically, or do they have to wait until the next board is put in place?
Yeah, it's not mandatory, it's courtesy.
Right.
It's courtesy, right? It helps with the transition of power from one administration to the next, you know? I mean, even in the US, the cabinet resigns even if the president is the same president, demits office and retakes office. So it's courtesy. It is practical. Yeah, it's practical simply because at the end of the day, you could resign and then get reappointed, you know?
Exactly.
So there's nothing wrong with it. All right, let's take the caller.
All right, we have a caller. Hello, good night, caller. Hello?
A very good evening and assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum
Assalamu alaikum to you guys.
Walaikum assalam.
As long as I can recall, Trinidad was pretty much safe on the roadways. But of late, we are noticing a series of bad accidents, cars flipping over, cars on fire. And a lot of this is because of inexperience, recklessness. People say speed, them fellas speeding too much. But recklessness is the culprit. What I would like the authorities to take note, and Mr. Jagesa, you could push this. In Cheshire County in England, they have a program going on now, an experiment, and it's working very successful, where they are subsidizing the cost of the dash cams for you to put in a vehicle. And any recklessness on the roadways, you could take your footage to the authorities. They would find the people and deal with them. And we need something like that in Trinidad. Because too much time, when you look at Facebook, when you look at YouTube, right in Trinidad, and you see all the madness, the cutting in, the cutting out, real recklessness, you're not only endangering yourself, but you're endangering other innocent people.
Correct.
So I think the authorities, being as a video footage now is admissible in court as evidence, they should consider you turning in your dash cam footage and persecute these crazy people. All the best. Have a good evening.
Thank you. So you could, that could be in licensing division, because they will be able to track the owner of the license plate very quickly.
Very easy.
Yeah. So let's.
You have a nice caller. Hello, good night, caller. Hello?
Hello?
Hello, good night.
Hello, good night to the panel.
Good night.
Mr. Richard.
You're breaking up, caller.
Hello?
Right, you're sounding much better now.
Yeah. Concerning constitutional reform, I think it's time now that they change those old backward stuff we have, and you don't get nothing fair out of it whenever an election is called. Why can't they bring in proportional representation with a long time this country people yawning to get? We need to have a lot of changes there. Number two, I have a problem when it comes to taxes, because without taxes we cannot run the country. I think the government should bring back the land and building taxes, because the last taxes the rich wasn't paying, but the poor, the pressure was on the poor. And bring it at a reasonable rate, because at least we must pay for service. And it will help to bring up the budget, with a little more money for the expenses to provide certain things for us. Then, when it comes to the foreign exchange, I don't think any other country people could go into it and without doing a service and just collect US dollars. Because I went into the bank and I had to travel, and what they give me, they check where you're going. I said, Canada. They saw the ticket. You know what they give me? 120 Canadian dollars to travel with. Is that fair? And people come in and they do nothing in this country and collecting how much? $1 million plus US sitting down and just talk. Thank you. From outside.
120 Canadian.
What I go buy,
rent a vehicle for that.
Not at all. Not
Hello.
At all.
Good evening, caller.
Good night and assalamu alaikum. I'm calling from Central. IBM have a large audience, and I want to suggest that if you guys can get in contact with, or the contact number of some of the ministers, so when they have a problem, you know which one can be. You call them and many people hear for themselves what the ministers say, comparing to what the opposition is saying to distract betterment of the country. Thank you, gentlemen.
Well, Richard, you could put that in place. We call the minister directly on the program and let them explain what is really happening.
Sure.
Which one are we going to call first? We'll get a number one time. Hello, good night, caller.
Sorry, I didn't even watch the program.
Hello?
Yeah, hello, good night.
Good night.
Good night, caller.
Yeah, fellas, Charlie Bill.
Yeah, Charlie Bill.
Yeah, here is right. There's two things. The first thing, that the point system, I don't think that they should have scrapped the whole thing. I think they should have restructured in terms of, like we're saying, like dangerous driving and bad driving and all that thing. They should have it with that. You see, vehicle inspection and thing, that is something totally different.
Yes.
Because that is a whole case by itself, because none of the roads in this country are good, first to begin with.
Exactly.
Alright? Now, the second thing I want to talk about is that this whole firearm issue, Richard, you're talking like you have some knowledge on this whole firearm thing, but I want to find out something, right? Where the time frame you have? If you was denied a firearm user's license, what's the time frame you have to go to the appeal board? That's my first question there, right? The next thing is that with this whole firearm thing, and notice it have people that just be representing other people with the application. And if the government is wise, they should stop that now and let people apply for their own FUL on their own. Because in the past, with the last commissioner who was giving out FUL, people was checking up on other people's files and getting people things pulled forward because of certain instances. And that's how the corruption started. So my advice to them is let the people go and apply for the thing themselves and stop people from applying for people's thing and checking up on other people's things and representing other people unless there's an attorney. You understand what I'm trying to tell you?
Or unless they have authorization from the person, because some people might be ill, they're unable to come, and they get an authorization letter to check it on their behalf.
Yeah, well, that is a different thing. But the point I'm trying to make is, if you're a person, you're an applicant, you apply for something, why should somebody else be checking up on your thing? You could do the same thing yourself. Where's the reason for that? If you understand what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, understood.
I would like to hear the timeline, Richard. You will tell me the timeline. I'll listen up it.
Yeah, for some reason I'm thinking 6 months, but I wanted to double check it, so I'm pulling up the legislation now. But yes, he's correct. If you're denied or aggrieved of a decision made by the Commissioner of Police under Section 16 or 17, the proper course is to appeal to the Firearm Appeals Board, which is obvious. People generally get denied their firearm and then they appeal to the board. And you make your case before the board, and the board reviews the process and then either determines.
But we have a function, when I mean a proper functioning board?
Yeah, they hear appeals. They hear appeals 2 or 3 times a week, I'm not mistaken. Not every day, because the board members themselves are occupied, have substantive jobs. But yes, there is an appeal process, and they do hear appeals. You can hear the appeal even virtually or in person, so the process itself is not a difficult one to embark on. Getting the board to reverse the decision of the Commissioner of Police, that's a difficult task. 2 Privy Council cases on the matter, where I think one was successful and one was not. So it happens, but I will double check that legislation. I'll post it on my Facebook. I think it's 6 months, if I'm not mistaken. And again, you have to of course prove to the board that there was some mismanagement of the decision-making process and so on. The 2 High Court cases that speak to delay in making of decisions in Section 16 and 17 are Shiva Budram and Solomon, which is Justice C. Prasad's decision.
Yeah, we have a caller here. Hello, good night, caller.
Hello, good night, Uncle Nazim. Good night, Mr. Jagisa.
Yeah, good night.
Yeah. Okay, so very quickly, I would like to, first of all, commend Minister Vandana Mohit. I understand that during the weekend she was able to meet with the NIS executive and to put some things in place so that those queries for pensioners who have been waiting so long that their grants would move at a faster pace. So I really do want to commend Minister Mohit. However, I also want to mention that in addition to old age pensioners, many government pensioners have queries at NIB, myself included. And it's 1 year now that I wrote. You normally have 1 year to submit any queries. And 1 year I wrote, 1 year and 6 months actually. And to date, my grant, my NIS grant has not been adjusted. So I would not call the branch this week, but you see from next week, when I go, because every month I visit that office, and it's the same thing. They are working on it, and quite frankly, I am getting tired and fed up of it. So I would like NIS and IB to put something in place, whether it is to put a team to work in the night, whatever it is they have to do, because I understand that they are short-staffed. But put things in place so that people will get their correct amount. So that's one. Secondly, Uncle Nizam and Mr. Jagisa, I want us to be mindful that many people were forced to remain silent during the PNM regime. And that's because the PNM is a thuggery party. The moment you open your mouth, even if it's a constructive criticism, you are bombarded with hateful messages. They are not open to even constructive criticism. So when I see people now opening their mouth, myself included, it's because we feel safe to do so at this point. So, but people like the Chamber of Commerce with Mr. Kiran Singh, I am disgusted with organizations like that because they had the opportunity to say something as an organization, not an individual, and they all kept silent.
That is correct.
Them and the Chamber of Commerce and who else, it's like everybody was singing for their supper. So now that it is safe for us to say something, I expect it will be coming out more and more.
That is
Thirdly,
correct.
and I will be short,
Yes, caller.
I want to appeal to the new opposition leader that many things that she's saying, Mr. Jagger, thank you very much for clearing up about the stand your ground law, because many things that the opposition leader is saying is quite misrepresented. It's twisted and it's twisted and manipulated to sound as though everybody getting a firearm license. But hear what? After listening to you tonight, my thing is this. Who consults with the criminals when they go after your families, when they rape and they bring so much suffering and pain? I think it's about time people need to shut up, because you only know it when you have experienced it yourself. I had an experience of a home invasion, and I could tell you it is one of the most frightening, devastating experiences. So if you do not want a licensed firearm, then don't apply for one.
Exactly.
But everybody else, I say, stand bloody ground. It's about time we rise up and take back Trinidad. So good night, gentlemen. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to say a few words.
Yes, caller. See that? A lot of people now coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
Hello, good night, caller. Hello? Hello?
Yes, hello.
Yeah, good night, caller.
I want to take this opportunity to publicly congratulate IBM on the program, especially listening to this program. I am one of the ardent listeners of this program from day one. But I want to special thank you and congratulations to Mr. Jagesa in the way he elaborated and defined and explained the stand your ground situation. Because a lot of people nowadays suddenly become legal experts and consultants on the law and misrepresenting people and giving the wrong impression about what the Prime Minister is talking about when she referred to stand your ground. So once again, I want to take this opportunity to publicly congratulate IBM and Mr. Jagesa. Thank you kindly, sir. I wish you could do a little more elaboration. I like the way you explain the situation and the references that you have been using to it. We need a little more of that in our country presently, because not everybody is receptive and not everybody is expressive. Thank you kindly, sir.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
That, and any caller who want explanation on any issue, feel free.
Yeah, tell us and I'll prepare something.
And Mr. Jagesa will definitely explain it as he normally do for the ordinary layman and everyone else to understand. Hello, good night, caller. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, good night, go ahead.
Good night. I call to say this. When the PNM government was there, None of them, Penny and Sen, Faris Al-Rawi, none of them are talking, nothing at all. Now, I want to say this. Now, stand your ground, sir. I'm talking about law. Mostly every abiding citizen in this country should have ammunition. Everyone should have one of that. Not business people alone. Every household that have an elderly, they're going to be an elderly now. You hear? And not one fear for them. For me, if the PNM could not see that the people with unlicensed guns coming in your home to do you something, it is right to get your ammunition, stand your guns, and when they come to do them something, because they come in by you, right? So this 110 Penny and Al-Rawi, not Al-Rawi, two little children, the holding the guns, right? And he just only children, he says not his own. They had a license to have guns. One of those young little children was holding the guns, but they had license to have guns. They had good character to hold guns. How they get that in their hand, right? But now all of them, Penny and Sent and Parin, everybody wants to talk because people want to protect themselves. My government, UNC government want to protect the people in this country, the law-abiding citizens, not business people alone. But the PNM government is prefer white man come to Trinidad from Canada.
All right.
I'm sure the government.
All right, caller. All right.
Already.
All right, caller. We have other calls on the line, so we don't want to go too long. All right. Hello. Good night. See, we lose that caller there.
No.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Good night, sir. Proceed quickly because we're running out of time.
Hello.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. I want to have a few words about this firearm.
Be brief and quickly, please.
Yes, sir. The people who were to make the money in this firearm business, the lawyers. Because when you shoot somebody, they're going to charge you for excessive force. You have to hold a lawyer. And plus, to buy a firearm is $40,000. Okay.
All right, Koda. Richard?
Well, okay, so I guess we close on calls there because we close in. But one of the callers, so I will confirm the timeline to appeal to the board. I'll either report on it next week or post it on social media. As one. Two, that caller made reference to persons making applications on behalf of others, similar to how people do visas and so on. So I was looking into that as well. My belief is an FUL is a personal thing. It's unique to an individual. It's not a toy. And I dare say it's not even, calling it a tool would be reducing it. I think it is a weapon. It is a weapon of destruction. It is a life-saving weapon, but in saving your life, it can destroy another. So I think it has to be, an application has to be done and executed and followed up on by the person who is seeking to hold that weapon. I don't think it's appropriate to do it through other persons. So I think that was an interesting point and a very good point that had to be ventilated. The caller that said, well, lawyers will make all the money. Okay. So again, the purpose for standing on legislation is to move away from charging the law-abiding citizen. So the police officer will have to make an assessment on the scene based on the law, whether or not this is a reasonable charge to lay, whether or not this person used reasonable force, whether or not a judge may be moved that this person used excessive force, and only then the person will lay the charge, the police will lay the charge, and only then the person will have to retain a lawyer. So by the current status is, as the example showed, I think I showed 2 articles where firearm user kills bandit and the 47-year-old and so on was charged. So in the current situation, Uncle, is that lawyers make the money because we get to represent the person who is charged. The legislation route sort of reduces that. ask for 40,000 for a firearm, well, that's your choice. You're entitled to hold a pistol, not a semi-automatic, not an automatic. You're entitled to hold a pistol, one pistol. And you go to the firearm range, you try out what they have to offer, and you pick one, as I said earlier, that is unique to you, that responds well to you. And if that one happens to be one valued at 4,000, well, it's just like a car. Yeah. You drive one that responds well to you, that you like, that
you pay for what you want.
Yeah, because there are firearms that reduce cost, you know. And to be honest with you, looking at it from a business perspective, if more people apply for firearms and firearm licenses for retailers are also expanded, which is the normal demand and supply economics, then what is going to happen is there's going to be competition in the market, and the cost of the product is going to drop. I mean, look at in our country, and I know I'm going over, I'm sorry, but cell phones in this country was real expensive when it only had TSTT, and then when it had TSTT and B-Mobile, the market became competitive, so prices started to drop. So the same thing will happen with firearms. And there was one other point somebody made, and I wanted to touch on, but it slipped me, so I'll have to leave it.
All right. Before we close, Richard, I just want to ask the Tunapuna Regional Corporation, Tinto Trace of Market Street in St. Joseph. The garbage collection is getting out of proportion right now. There's a buildup of garbage at Tinto Road, Market Street in St. Joseph. Could you please have that checked out, please? And another thing, Richard, I was on the highway on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. Guys, just bear with me for 2 minutes. I'm
going to copy lights and
I was on the highway coming from south to north. Mm-hmm. Midway between the gas station in Presal Flyover and Chase Village. Now they're patching road, right? You know, the traffic is moving. Standstill traffic, they're patching the road. You telling me we couldn't have a policeman there and ask people to make a 2-lane, one drive on the shoulder and next one driving the left lane. Yeah. So you still have 2 lanes leaving. It had 1 lane because people don't want to drive on the shoulder. They don't want to pull on the shoulder.
Yeah.
And that
because they don't have a police officer there authorizing
all
that.
All they had to do was put a policeman on spot there and pull the vehicles, direct the traffic. That is ridiculous in this day and age.
Yeah.
And they're taking their own time to patch the road. If you see them. And to me, I find the road wasn't patching good at all. Mm-hmm. I could tell you that. So, guys, all you could do better than that. If all you're patching road, request a police so that the police could direct the traffic so the driving public would not be inconvenienced.
Yeah.
It was really terrible.
I remember the last point. Let me say it just quickly. On the point of demitting office or resigning from boards, it is common practice, it is ethical, it is moral, it is the political best practice, it is expected. And the other point I wanted to make was, I made the point earlier about transitioning government. You have to align the new administration, all of the arms, including statutory bodies, because we've discussed statutory bodies and where they fall in government rule and stuff before. You have to align with the same views of the central government. Otherwise, you're going to have teething problems. You're going to have friction. The gain are going to lock. And not only is it expected and ethically moral and so on, but if you want to look at it through a political lens, I ask you this. How many UNC persons were on boards, held board positions on April 28 or April 27?
And were forced to resign.
Right, exactly. So, no. How many UNC persons were on boards in the last administration?
Previous.
Because the argument is, I'm saying, look at it from a political argument. It is, they want all the PNM people to resign and so on. Well, looking at it fairly, looking at it away from the ethics and the morals and so on politically, well, how many UNC people were board members? And the answer, is none.
None.
So, and if a UNC government is in power, then the persons who will execute the UNC plans and policies is going to be UNC members.
So it is incumbent on the political appointees to submit their resignation. And if the Prime Minister decide, all right, we want you to stay on for X amount of time.
If you're a good worker, specialist, fair, and so on.
Until we could, put things in place.
Exactly.
All right, I think we go on 5
Overtime.
minutes overboard. So, folks, we'll see you next week.
Unless you come to Baraka.
And don't forget, Idgar on Saturday, 7:30, promptly 7:30. So we'll see you there at the Baraka grounds. Okay, good night.
Good night, everyone.